Good morning. It is Tuesday, and we're going to get ready to listen to our second interactive read aloud. It is called Air and Spacecraft. So remember, when we're listening today, you want to listen maybe for some new words that you learn or something that you find really interesting that you're going to write about when we meet. So, people are able to explore space because of the incredible work of engineers. Engineers are curious about how things work. They design and build things to solve problems. Engineers have solved many problems to allow people to go into space. The first challenge engineers had was designing something that could fly. Engineers observed birds and other flying animals to get ideas as they worked on early aircraft designs. What do you notice when you look at these animals that fly? What do they have in common? Here are some of the wings engineers designed, inspired by the wings of flying animals. These designs didn't always work, but the engineers never gave up. Finally, about 100 years ago, two brothers engineered an airplane, a vehicle that could fly in the air. Over time, engineers figured out how to make airplanes that could fly faster and stay in the air for longer periods of time. So here's how they looked 100 years ago, and here's how they look today. Not long after planes were invented, people started thinking about traveling to space. Can you find the moon in this picture? People were eager to visit the moon to learn more about it. The first spaceship engineers built to bring people to the moon was called Apollo 11. Apollo 11 had a command module where the astronauts controlled the spaceship and a lunar module to land on the moon. So here's the lunar module. Here's the command module. This is the service module. And this is the launch escape system. The earliest spacecraft had many enormous rockets filled with fuel. The rockets powered the command module into space and then detached from it once the fuel was used up, so the spacecraft would be less heavy. When Apollo 11 was close to the moon, the lunar module detached from the command module and dropped to the moon's surface. Two astronauts traveled to the moon in this module, and one stayed in the command module above the moon. When the astronauts on the moon finished their work, they blasted off, reattached to the command module, and all three astronauts returned to Earth. To get back home, the Apollo 11 astronauts in the command module parachuted down to land in the ocean. The module floated on the surface of the ocean until Mission Control brought it and the astronauts back to land. These first spacecraft could only be used one time. Astronauts wanted a way to explore more of the moon's surface on later missions. Engineers decided to build a vehicle like a car to travel across the moon's terrain. Describe the terrain you see on the moon. Is it smooth, sandy, rough, or rocky? Is it flat or hilly? Engineers designed and tested different versions of their vehicle, which they called a moon buggy, until they created one that could travel on the very dusty, rocky surface of the moon. It folded up to fit inside the spaceship. Engineers kept trying to improve their spacecraft design. Soon, they made a spacecraft that could land on a runway like an airplane. These space shuttles could be used many times, unlike the early spacecraft that could only be used once. Engineers have designed many different spacecraft over the last 50 years. The biggest project is the International Space Station, which is orbiting around the Earth right now. The ISS is a huge spacecraft as long as a football field. Here, astronauts from different countries meet to do space research. The ISS is so big that many space engineers had to work together to plan how to get it into space. How do you think they could get an enormous space station, into space? Pieces of the ISS are made by people in 15 different countries. Then those pieces are launched into space bit by bit. Astronauts assemble all the pieces in space like a giant space puzzle. Space engineers are now designing robot spacecraft that can explore where humans can't go yet, like the Mars rover on the planet Mars. Engineers are still working on new space exploration challenges. The next challenge is to send people to Mars, a mission that might require astronauts to be in space for 3 years. Maybe you'll be one of the astronauts who goes to Mars, or one of the engineers that helps them get there. So here's the one question you can also choose to answer. What did you learn about air and spacecraft that you didn't know before? So we have wings. This is an engineer. Airplane. Mars rover. Moon buggy. Apollo 11. Command module. International Space Station. And here is the lunar module. So remember, you can choose one of these pictures, the other question, or something else that you found interesting in our read aloud. And that's what you can choose to write about when we meet. I will see you back soon. Bye.